Welcome, my viewer. It's yet another Saturday that God has given us so that we may continue sharing and encouraging somebody. Last weekend, I shared about the experience of parenting a hearing impaired child, and I want to believe that we were able to get one or two, three things. I talked about the challenges that we face as parents with the hearing impaired children, and that's what I want to continue with. I mentioned about acceptance being one of them. I also mentioned about time being a factor that really impacts a parent with a child with hearing impairment. I also talked about communication barrier, and that is very key. And I also talked about the ridicule, or the way the parents or those children are not accepted in the society, the way the community handles or takes or receives a child with hearing impairment, or even a parent in the community. They are not well accepted, and those were the the main keys or the main things that I talked about last Saturday. I want to continue with the same, and I want to dwell so much on the communication part of it. Loss of hearing or hearing impairment, it is a challenge just like any other. There is no challenge that we can say it's better than the other. A challenge is a challenge, and no one is prepared for a challenge. All of us parents would wish to give birth to children who are healthy. Every parent would wish to have a child who has no disability. However, children are gifts from God, and whether a child is impaired or not, they are blessing, and they are special gifts from God. When it comes to the love in a family, we need to love them equally. We need to treat them just like any other children. If anything, we need to pay more attention to them so that they may not feel mishandled. They will not feel neglected. They will not feel abandoned, and they will not feel as if they are not like any other child. However, there are many factors that affect that, and that's why we are talking about the impact that the parents face when they are taking care or when they are nurturing these children. And when we talked about acceptance, this is where I emphasized on how the feelings or the adaptation or the impression that a family has when they are trying to come into terms with this condition. One being the mentality that this is something that they are going to live with does not come out. Number two, the idea that the community may not accept. Number three, it is like whenever they will go out, everybody will be looking at them into a negative eye. Everybody will be looking at them in a different perspective. The one that I was talking about, the influence of the community, whereby the community becomes very judgmental, and instead of helping you walk or support the child, they become so judgmental, and they will always be looking out for things that will intimidate you, thinking that they are helping you. Okay, in one way or the other, they might not know what they are doing to you. They might think they are helping you. They might think they are getting concerned, but in the long run, they are making you feel even more and more depressed. I want to talk about the results or the outcome of the challenges of all those things that I talked about. I talked about the income, not the income, the impact that is created. And today I want to talk about the results or the outcome of those challenges. One of the outcome of those challenges, the parents withdraw themselves from the community. They withdraw themselves from other people. They withdraw themselves from activities, engagements, involvements. They withdraw themselves from everything that other people are engaging in such that they want to get out of the norm. They feel they are outcast. They feel they are abandoned. They don't belong. And the reason as to why they feel so, it is because when they are in the midst of other people, in the midst of other group of people, they, in quotes, think that you are only thinking about them. Think that you are only there to judge them. And in a way, they could be correct or not. Me being one of them, I would say that it is half-half. When you are with other people, they are busy with their own things. But you'll not miss one or two who will ask you a question that will really make you feel down. They don't mean bad. They are okay. And in one way or the other, they are concerned. But they will make you feel broken and intimidated without them knowing. That is number one. Number two, and the same outcome can make this parent or can make, yes, this guardian or this parent get into depression. And I am a victim of that. I suffered depression for 2 good years because of failure or failing to accept the reality which hit me hard. And this depression really withdrew me from people. It withdrew me from activities. It withdrew me from social gatherings, whereby even when I attended a function, I felt I didn't belong. Even when I was invited for a function, I felt I didn't belong. And this continued for a very long time. And even if I could attend, I would attend or I would make what we call technical appearance, because I don't want to engage. I don't want to mix with other people. I am imagining how they are taking me, what they are thinking about me, the questions they will ask me, and this really brought me down. For 2 good years, this was as a result of failing to accept the situation or the condition the way it was. That is number one. The other challenge that we talked about, or the impact, was about time. This one is very paramount. Time is whereby we talked about a parent not being in a position to engage with a child as they would wish. And I gave this as an example of myself. And I said that since my child went into a boarding school, I have always been feeling that I don't have enough time to board with her, enough time to be with her. So every time she comes over the holiday, I want to make use of that holiday. I want to make sure that I have engaged her enough so that I will feel as if I'm trying to fill a gap that I've never filled. One, it is because when you are communicating with other children, you can communicate with them through the phone, while you cannot communicate with a deaf or a hearing impaired child through the phone unless it is through a text, and it is not very efficient. Secondly, when you are in the same house or in the same environment, it is very easy to communicate with a hearing child even when you cannot see them. You can even tell them what to do. You can even shout at them. You can even say to them and tell them so many things, even through songs, because they can hear. But this child who cannot hear, even when you are with them, you have to make sure you give them attention. And that is the attention that will take time. And this time, you cannot be doing something else, because the communication of a hearing impaired child, you will have to use your fingers or your hands, meaning that your hands cannot be doing something else. If you are cooking, you cannot communicate well, because you have to put everything down and then you use your hand. And not only your hand, you need to give them your attention. So you cannot use your hands when you are not facing the person. That one means you need to have time. Specifically, you save your time so that you can give this child attention, and then you sign what you want to communicate. That is the kind of time I was talking about. And what is the outcome, or what will happen when someone or when a parent is not able to give time to a child who is hearing impaired? It means this child will become withdrawn, and most likely they will not bond with this child. There will be no bond between the two, because the parent is too busy or the parent is absent, and therefore this child has no one to engage with as far as signing is concerned. And this can affect both the mother and the child. The child will be affected negatively, and this child might even withdraw completely from the parent because there is no bond between them. This child might develop an attitude that will be very negative towards the parent. This child will try to look for will try to look for friendship outside the family setup, because those are the people who are giving them attention. Those are the people who have time for them. And this is a very negative connotation. When it comes to the parent will always be afraid because they don't have time with their children. The parent will also be feeling insecure. They don't know their children. They don't know what would happen to them when they are out there. This is a challenge that is very, very, very sensitive, and the impact, I've talked about it. And this child, together with the parent, they will live a life they will be strangers even the rest of their lives, whether they are children of young age or even adults, because they don't have time together. The other thing I talked about was about communication barrier, and communication barrier cuts across all of them, because communication barrier, communication itself, it is the key to everything that surrounds the child who is hearing impaired. The communication barrier or communication, it means this is what will bring out what this child is thinking, or what this child wants, the needs of this child, and also the parent as they communicate, or the caretaker of this child. If the caretaker needs something to be done and the communication is not efficient, this child will not be obedient. The caretaker or the parent may be feeling that this child is rebellious, that this child is not obedient, yet that is not the case. The case is that they are not communicating. The communication is not efficient. Number two, the child will be feeling the caretaker or the parent is not taking care of their needs. And that is not the case, simply because there is communication breakdown. Anytime the child is trying to express their needs, the parent or the caretaker will put them off, simply because they cannot understand. They cannot be able to comprehend. They have no idea what this need is. And communication breakdown or the communication barrier, the outcome will be almost the same with the one of time, because this one means this child will feel insecure. They have no trust with the caretaker, they have no trust with the parents, because they are not ready to give them what they need. You know, needs, even for a normal child, are very, very important. Even when we don't have time and we cannot be able to communicate with our children, even those that without any disability, it creates a problem, or it creates a gap that shows or proves that there is no bond between the child and the parent. And eventually you will find that this child becomes rebellious because their needs are not met. So it is always good to know that the needs of these children are very, very key. They are very, very important, because if we fail as parents to meet the needs of these children, they will look for a plan B. They will look for an alternative. And when they get the alternative, we are going to be very hostile on them, yet it is our failure on our side. That is the outcome. The other challenge that I mentioned about, or impact, I mentioned about ridicule. I mentioned about failing to be accepted by the community or the environment. And you find that these children, most often than not, we parents are the ones to blame. If we fail to expose our children to the community, if we fail to let them know who are their aunties, who their uncles, who their cousins, who are their relatives, who are their neighbors, they need to know them so that they can interact. Even if there will be still the communication barrier, they need to know that there are people that they need to relate with, because the outcome will be in a very negative way. And that's why you hear through the news, through other forms of information, that a child has been raped by a cousin, and this child is hearing impaired. A child has been molested by a neighbor. This is because there has been no interaction, there has been no relationship. So they are strangers to one another. A relative visits a child and they are raped, they are molested. This is because there has been no exposure, there has been no introduction, there has been no relationship, because you have been putting your child alone and they cannot be able to mix with other people. So for us parents, it is our role and our responsibility to treat our children just like any other child. Let your child interact with other people. Let that child go to church. Let this child visit the relatives in your presence, or in the presence of a member of the family. Let this child know that she has relatives, and let them know who they are. So by doing this child will grow in a holistic way, knowing that there are people that she is related with, knowing that they are neighbors, and they will not live as strangers. And the outcome is what I'm now mentioning about, that the outcome will bring problem to the child, negative problem, and this problem will also affect the parent. So there are many outcomes, or there are many results of the impact of parents taking care of children with a disability, whatever kind of a disability, because when we fail on our part as parents, then we make our children the losers. So we have a role and responsibility. We have a duty to do, so that we can ensure that our children are living in the light or the appropriate environment and in the appropriate way, so that they can have, or they can live a normal life even with their disability. We need to make them, or we need to make their life comfortable by giving them a room, and by showing them the love that we need to show them. If we as parents are not responsible enough what do we expect the other members of the family and also the other members of the community to do to our children. So may the Lord help us as parents so that we can be able to engage our children, we can be able to embrace them, and we can also be able to take care of them so that they may grow as holistic children to fit in our families and to fit in the community, because at the end of it all, we expect them to meet and engage other people in the society. And they are the people that we are going to meet in the offices, they are the people that we are going to meet them in the market, and they are going to work in all parts of the country. And therefore, we have a duty. May the Lord help us. May the Lord bless us, even as we continue showing our children love and also directing them into the right ways as children with hearing impairment. Thank you for listening, and God bless you all.